we've been taught that discomfort is actually a sign that it shouldn't be. But like, as we look at just nature and anything, like a seed literally has to break through soil. A caterpillar has to struggle through its cocoon in order to have the strength to fly. A freaking eagle kicks their baby eagles out the nest and they say, fly. So if you don't hit that ground, you learn how to fly.
Found nearly 88% report a mental health struggle, with nearly 12% citing no purpose or direction. I don't know, what does that tell you about the landscape of entrepreneurs with social media and clarity and things like that?
Yeah, Michael, first, can you send that article to me? Like that? Yeah. And I get to come in their world and say, what do you need to remove from your life to get you unstuck? And oftentimes we're so nurtured to accumulate. I need more, I need more, I need more.
A story for people. Be as intelligent as they are, but still be stuck or just living in this mental prison.
That's a really good question. And like the first common response would be fear. But as we look deeper, going back to what I was sharing earlier, look deeply into it, I think about the stories we tell ourselves. As I coach many clients, the stories that they're telling, is it empowering or disempowering? Is it showing a story of resolve, resilient, the hero in the story, or are they showing the victim of the story?
What's up, fam? Before we get into this conversation, let me say this. Look, I know it's a thing, right? But if what we do here on this channel speaks to you, if it lifts you, centers you, or helps you see your life a little clearer, I invite you to like the video and subscribe so you stay connected. And if you want these conversations with you beyond YouTube, download the Thrival Journey podcast on your favorite RSS platform. It is a small ask that goes a long way, and it really, truly helps us create the kind of content that doesn't just entertain, but actually supports your journey of growth and alignment. So hit that like, subscribe. Let's breathe in, get present, step into the conversation. Well, we just met, and I just want to say, Brother David Prosper, which is a great last name, welcome to the Thrival Journey podcast. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Michael. Thank you for having me. And I'm like, when we first got on, like, I want to say I love your energy. So I'm excited for how this just uncover itself.
Yeah. You know, we here at the Thrival Journey, we here, meaning me and my producer, we know who we want to have on the podcast based on, the research, and it never fails to have great people on the podcast. And I can tell that you're one of them. And we're really going to be talking about, your specialty, which is really finding clarity in your life and breaking free from the past. And before we get going, though, we'd always say we'd have this thing that, we have this reflective moment for our guests. And I'm just read this question to you, and you can answer it how you will. And the question is, what's one truth about yourself that took you years to fully accept, and how did embracing it change everything? That's
a really good question. I would say the biggest thing that I've had to accept and welcome is, and I learned about myself, is that I see things differently, and I see past what is and what it could be. And how I came to realize it was when I was a sophomore in college at St. Norbert College in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And my professor, it was Intro Through Humanities. He would often give us pictures and give us poems and say, tell me the deeper meaning. And that class frustrated me because he would always say, you're looking at it, but I need you to look at it deeper. And I'm looking at this painting, and it's like, what is it conveying? So him pushing and nurturing and cultivating that in me, like, it was already there, but now I've learned to accept, like, I see deeper than things. And then oftentimes I'm looking at my people around me. I was like, did you not notice that? And they're like, I had no clue what's going on. So I've come to just accept that I see deeply into things, and I break it down, and I find the pros and cons like in nanoseconds. So that's a really good question.
Now, then I want to know, how do you do that? I mean, that's probably why you're good in clarity and helping people with that. But like, how do you do that?
It's like when asking like a magician or somebody, like, how do you do it? Like, it's some people it comes naturally. So for me, I break down in my mind what is effective, what's ineffective. So if I'm listening to a speech or if I'm looking at a presidential debate, I'm like, what's effective, what's not effective? That's what my brain is constantly doing. I'm like, oh, he said this. It drew in the crowd. Oh, that's effective. Well, he said this was emotionally charging. That's ineffective. So it's constantly, and then once it had like does this assessment, like what's really being said, not what's being showed, then I can make like an assessment of like, okay, like based on that, how do I navigate forward? So it's
Mm.
constantly like what's effective, what's not effective. And then looking at the human behavior, I'm like, okay, how's this gesture? Like what's going on? Understanding the context, what's happening around it. So it's like, look, it's being present wherever you're at and like fully engaged, like what's happening, and then making the decision from there. So that's how I get to do it, if that made sense at all.
No, it made total sense. I was like, man, that's really being totally in the moment at the moment, like completely present, not letting the past get into your future, that kind of thing, just really being there
Yeah.
with the other persons or person, which is really cool. Man, I find that interesting. I find that really interesting. You have an extraordinary story too. Can you share kind of like a little overview of your story, kind of like from where you came from to where you are now?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say I'm a son of two Haitian immigrants who came into this country where uh, my mother wanted to give us the American dream, where we had an opportunity. Because growing up in Haiti, it's like this is a third world country, so opportunity is very scarce. So
Hmm.
seeing how my mother came out of the slums in the third world country of Haiti, and now we're living in the projects of Fort Lauderdale, Florida, and like that, she made it in America. But I grew up poor, so I saw a lot of skill sets that my mom embodied, and it was resiliency, resourcefulness, and resolve. She was always determined. She was always resilient, and then she could make anything out of anything. So like those characteristics growing up in Fort Lauderdale then inspired me to continue to play football and track. And those things got me off of the streets, the projects, because a lot of my friends, that were either selling drugs, they were stealing from things and people. And that's the trajectory I was heading on, like growing in the projects. And sports literally saved my life and taught me so many skills as far as teamwork, understanding human dynamics, which then got me into college. And as I was an athlete and a student, I was always obsessed with why people do what they do. And growing up in the projects and seeing so many people like who are very educated where I'm from, like if you ask them anything, like they're smart, but they live in this prison. And why do they live in this prison? So I just became obsessed, and it led me to figuring out what gets people to move. And my role in sales has led me to like interacting with people. So all that to say, the lessons that I've learned, the hardships, the struggle that I've seen throughout my world became the catalyst to say, you know what, God, what's my purpose? What am I here for? And he spoke those words very audibly to me, and it was clarity. And ever since then, now I've been obsessed with helping people find clarity, because clarity equals progress, clarity equals confidence. So I'm like, if we have more clarity, more confident people, people who are more connected and more curious, what kind of world could that be? So all that to say, all of that pain, struggle, and trauma led me to where I am today.
That's a lot. Not exactly your story, but a lot of people have that background as a story, right? They
Yeah.
have. You mentioned that they're smart people living in a prison,
Yeah.
and it's a probably prison of their own mind. Oh, can you speak to that? Like, why is that such a a story for people to be as intelligent as they are, but still be stuck or just living in this mental prison?
Yeah. That's a really good question. And like the first common response would be fear. But as we look deeper, going back to what I was sharing earlier, look deeply into it, I think about the stories we tell ourselves. And as I coach many clients, I'm listening for, are their the stories that they're telling, is it empowering or disempowering? Is it showing a story of resolve, resilient, the hero in the story, or are they showing the victim of the story? So seeing the people in where I grew up, it was the stories that they told themselves. It's like, the white man's keeping me down. I can't make it out. It's a hard life. It's just, it is what it is. And it was just like the stories shape our perspective shapes our paradigm shapes our mentality, and it ultimately becomes our beliefs and our personality. So we get stuck in that story. And I think the beauty of getting out of that story is exposure, and education is one vehicle, mentors is one vehicle. So it's just like, how do we pause that story momentarily from going unstuck into like living in freedom? So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I was thinking about my background. I don't really remember living in the projects, but it was like up until like in Flint, Michigan, up till like 3, and then we moved to Grand Rapids, Michigan. And all I knew though from 3 on till I think when I left for college was moving around. Love my mom to she's no longer here, but I loved her, love her, love her.
Hmm.
But there was no stability for me on that side. On my dad's side, it was, but I lived with my mom. I grew up with my mom, and I stayed with my dad from time to time. And so moving around was my story. That's what happened. And I saw in that was this is not how I want to be. Right.
Hmm.
And I got to college, went to Europe for a while, came back, and then in my 20s and on, I was living that story over and over again. I was always moving. Moved to California, moved from Michigan, Atlanta to California. I'm moving, still moving in California. I'm moving, and now I'm back in Georgia. But I had to get out of that story. But I think there was something I was playing pervasively in the back of my mind. It was in my subconscious, and I didn't realize it until I did. Right? I didn't know what I didn't know. What do you say to people that are that's them? They might not notice it now, but it's something they may have to face at some point.
Yeah, I want to celebrate the fact that you reflected enough to say like, okay, that was a story, and then I believe awareness is the first step of breakthrough, and the fact that you noticed that, okay, moving from California, and now in Georgia, so it's like you're moving, moving, moving. And that's a loop, and
Yes.
so easy to get caught up in that, and like continue with life, because life does such a phenomenal job at distracting us.
Mm.
So with bills and worries. So going to your question, what would I say to someone who's living in that or who's experienced that? First, I want to say I see you. Like I've been there, and I want to encourage you that this isn't the way that life is designed. You get to design it and co-design it. And then the challenge I would say is, when's the last time you became more present in the moments? And reflect, breathe, savor what you're eating. And then when was the last time you sincerely been curious? Ask questions like, why does this the way it's designed? What was the intention? Like trying to understand art. Like, and then if we can do those two things, become more present and to ask more and more questions, as how is this designed? Who designed it? What's the context? And be truly curious about what's around us and what's in front of us. I believe only then can we start the journey of living in clarity.
Yeah. It took a lot of self-reflection. It took a lot of work. It took a lot of work to be this person right now.
I can only imagine. And how old, if you don't mind me asking?
No, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
What was the question?
How old are you?
Oh, how old am I? 48. I had to think about it for a minute. You know
That's
why? It's so funny because maybe because we're talking about what had occurred. Like I may have been back there mentally because I swear to God, 30, 32, 30, like it was in my head. I was like, I'm not 30 anything.
You can tell me your biological age. It was like what I identify as. Like my age is 38, but I'm really 48 on my birth certificate. That's
Yeah,
hilarious.
right, exactly.
So it took you 48 years. And for you, Michael, like, what would you say? Because again, this is a conversation. What would you say some of the points in your life that you've been anchored? Like, what are some things that keep you anchored when, like we talked about before, when the distractions, the stories, the whirlwind of life happens? I'm curious.
Um, what gets me, I think maybe it's not that I adopt a technique, but I think just getting still.
Hmm.
Um, so you know how sometimes what will happen if when I'm living in a just kind of like th- building a company and building a business, like it could be a lot, right? So maybe in some days I'll be, kind of all over the place and and trying to do something, but I don't, or go somewhere and it feels like I'm not going anywhere. I'm just in the same place thinking I'm going somewhere.
Yeah.
Um, what I'll do is I'll catch myself. I can do this now, but I don't know. Maybe years ago I couldn't, but I'll catch myself and I'm like, is this who I'm being right now? Like, am I being confused and am I, not being the person that's really present and still? And so what I'll do is I'll just stop. I'll just stop everything and just get really present and just chill. I'll just chill and I'll realize that all the stuff that's around me is still where it's at. It's me. I'm the hurricane of the situation, and I'll just get still and come back to myself, basically, and wait for that moment to settle in, and then I'll move on.
Hmm.
So it takes something, though.
Yeah. As I'm listening to you, like most people talk about the pause, but as I listen to you more, like you're like, it's not a hurricane around me and I'm the hurricane. Like I'm hearing a reset. And when I think of like resetting my phone when it's acting slow or it's not like pulling up the internet as fast as I want. And I grew up on dial up and it
Okay,
some
okay, I know.
like internet is fast now.
Right.
But as I'm listening to you, I'm like, I'm hearing the power of the reset. And Michael, that could be a TED talk right there. It's like the power of the reset when life starts life and like and you took that ownership too. You're like, I'm the hurricane. Most people with positions like I'm the hero in the story and all these things are happening to me. But
Mm,
that speaks volume to like who you are and who you're becoming. That's beautiful.
yeah, I didn't hear that. Okay, I'm gonna write that down. Hold on a second. Write that down. Um, but that's what you do. That's what you do. That's the kind of coach you are, right? Like you're listening for what people are dealing with and how they can really, I guess, solve it themselves or take care of it themselves, or
Hmm.
how does that work?
It oftentimes when I meet people, especially my coaching clients, or just people in general, it's like this is gonna sound like a really bad example, but it is what it is. It's like we're all backed up. Like think of your toilet. Like we're all backed up, and everyone needs a flush. They know they need a flush because like some stuff is stinking around the house, but they're just like, but I don't know where the flush is. But the flush
Uh-huh.
is literally right in front of them, the button, and they're just like, but there's so many other buttons. So like think of it like your toilet has all these buttons. It's like, but which one to choose? It's that long silver one, but they're like, but that one's clear. That one's, and I get to come in their world and say, what do you need to remove from your life to get you unstuck? And oftentimes we're so nurtured to accumulate. I need more. I need more. I need more. But I'm like, what needs to get removed? And once we can start doing like the spring cleaning of our emotions and our mind, what happens is now we can start finding the things that we misplace, like our values, our identity, our dreams, our aspiration. But it doesn't happen when we start doing subtraction. And that's subtracting places that we go to, conversations that we have, people that we hang out with. So once we start moving things out, then we can start focusing on what is and what was buried. And then we can start planting those seeds of what clarity's next step can I take versus trying to understand everything. So as a
Yeah.
coach, I just help people clear the clutter. And then I'm like, all right, remember that thing you were missing when you think you were thinking about it being as a kid? Hey, let's talk about that dream. Why did that dream die? Oh, somebody told me I wasn't smart enough. Where did, and then we unpack that and then we go right back to that dream. So people feel like they're making progress versus just circling the story of what's happened to them.
When you say that, I'm thinking about how people live in the story or a superstition
Mhm.
of themselves or a story or whatever. And then you talked about uh, the clutter, and my mind went to, you know, okay, it's a podcast. We're on YouTube. We're on, I know, social media, all that stuff, right? Um, and do you find like a lot of people that are kind of cluttered with all the stuff, that all this new stuff, AI, social media, whatever else is really a source of the lack of clarity, because it's so much right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're inundated with information, with things. It's vying for our attention. I remember my college professor once told us. He said, "The media doesn't tell you what to think, but what to think about." And it makes me think about everything that we have with AI, with social media. There's always something urgent. And there's this one post I saw on TikTok. The creator was like, every time I get on social media, I make sure I post something like a content before I start scrolling. And
Hmm.
we're so conditioned to consume that we stop believing that we have the ability to create. So the
Mm,
perception of social media is there's so much stuff. So we're in the mindset of I need to consume. But finding clarity is like, yeah, I can consume some stuff that resonates with me, but let me also create and contribute because
mm,
I'm a creator. So it's moving from we're going to live on social media, we're going to live on the digital platforms, but how do we still create and design a life that is in alignment? So for me specifically, I know I'm a consumer's social media content. So I only follow people that levels me up and anything contrary to that. So I get to filter my content and whatever I consume, I imitate. So it's like we can be courageous and strong and entrepreneurs and great people, consume the content, but whatever we're feeding is who we become. So I see it as a beauty even in the noise. And it's just filtering what needs to get subtracted. Not everything can be the things that we consume, and not
yeah.
everything in that season too. So yeah, I think so. That's a great question, by the way.
Yeah. Do you? Thank you. Man, there's so much. So I was looking at, like, what I know you deal with a lot of high achievers, entrepreneurs, and things like that, and I wanted to know a couple of things. And so I gathered some information, and this is a recent survey. I think, I don't know. I can't find the name of the survey right now, but it was like 227 entrepreneurs, since you talked about that, found nearly 88%, 88 found nearly 88% report a mental health struggle, with nearly 12% citing no purpose or direction. Um, I don't know. What does that tell you about the landscape of entrepreneurs with, social media and clarity and things like that?
Yeah, Michael, first, can you send that article to me? Like
Yeah.
that's cool.
Well,
It's not dope, but it's cool to hear that it confirms. I would say a lot of entrepreneurs, they again going back to social media, there's so many ways to make money. So many ways. So they see the affiliate deal. They see, oh, this if I start doing cryptocurrency, if I start doing trading, and it's just like again, it's a sea of information and noise. So I believe why a lot of entrepreneurs and high achievers struggle with finding clarity is because again, it goes back to the consume from a place of I don't know me. So it's an identity issue more than anything else.
mm,
So when we don't know when we don't know what kind of car we're driving, the destination that we're driving to, how our car is wired, we're bound
mhm,
to make ineffective decisions. So I drive a Tesla. My friend drive a gas vehicle. Like it drives differently. So if I let go of the gas, it slows down. But for a gas car, you have to continue to press it, or you gotta press the brake. So it's an identity issue. So we don't know who we are, and we don't start asking questions. Who are we becoming? How are we wired? How do we want to serve the world? What's our gifts? So we think we can find it in activities. So what we talk about in clarity coaching is alignment. Alignment is who am I to serve? What am I good at? What are my core values? Um, and 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 who do I belong to? So once we understand our identity, and we can start working on our beliefs, because there's people who believe if I do a lot of action, if I'm successful on the outside, eventually I'll be successful on the inside. That's a broken belief, and a lot of entrepreneur and leaders, they feel that empty feeling and lack of fulfillment. So it's shifting that beliefs. Is what do I believe to be true about me? And then it's the action. What actions that are constant alignment? Just like when you said, when you feel yourself drifting, you reset. I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't have that reset and don't have that anchor. And it's grounded in a lot of competition of, oh, you're doing that, I want to do that, or envy. It's not coming from a place of true creation. And I believe there's so much to be created. So, but yeah, to
Yeah.
hear that statistic, it's alarming, because there's a lot of influencers who are out there.
Here on the Thrival Journey, we talk a lot about not just surviving, but thriving. And a big part of that for me has been understanding my health on a deeper level. That's why I partnered with Live Good and brought it under my company, Orion's Health. Not just because I believe in the products, but because I've seen what they can do firsthand. I've walked through some hard health chapters in my life, including cancer and a kidney transplant. And I know what it feels like when your body's working against you. That's why we're offering 2 free tools that help me and can help you too. First, go to myfreehealthreport.com/Orion's Health. Take our quick health questionnaire and get a personalized report created by Dr. Ryan Goodkin, Live Good's Director of Product Development. It's clear, actionable, and totally free. Second, visit myfreedetox.com and get a free chlorophyll and zeolite detox bottle with your first product order. It's a gentle, natural way to clear out toxins and start fresh, something I personally use and stand behind. This isn't just a sponsorship, it's part of my mission through Orion's Health to help people thrive in body, mind, and spirit. Of course, always, always, always consult your physician before starting any new supplement or health regimen. Your body is unique, and your healthcare provider should always be part of the conversation. The links are in the show notes. Now tap in and take your next step toward thriving.
Saying, "Oh, you can get money doing this, you can get money," and it's just like, yeah,
Yeah.
but what's my skill set, and how do I want to contribute to the world? But yeah, that's what I found. And then once we stop projecting the story, either somebody projected on us or a story we started to inherit falsely. Once we break away from that story plot line, and then we start moving into what's truly important to me,
Mhm.
I believe that's where purpose and fulfillment and the aliveness and the connection and the freedom of expression starts living.
I don't know how to frame this. Do you with okay? Let me try to bring context first. So, with all the frame, the scrolling through the social media, the entrepreneur trying to find his or her identity, and they have all these things that are speaking to them. You know, you can make this much money doing this, and they go into it and they find it like not working for them, then they go to something else, and it's like a just they're on a swing set, jumping from thing to thing, but never finding themselves or what they're truly connected to. That is the reset that we're talking about, like so that they can really truly the identity is what I'm saying. I guess they need to find the identity for themselves before they keep clicking and spending money, going down the funnel.
Yeah, identity it sums it all up.
Identity sums it up. Yeah, you sent an email. I tried to find it. I could not find it, but you have these archetypes. Um,
Yes.
and I did one. My producer, Yvonne, the producer, she did one. Can you talk about archetypes? Like, why are they important? For someone who trying to find themselves intentionally.
Yeah, it's like a board game. Thank you for doing that, architect quiz. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
It's like a board game, and I envision Monopoly. Sometimes people are the shoe, they're the hat. So with the architect, it's the clarity archetype helps you understand where you're at in the season and how you identify currently. So it's the wanderer. The wanderer is the individual who's like going through a fog. They're driving. They're squinting. There's tense. They know that their destination's on the other side, but they can't quite see it. They don't know how. And it's like there's a lot of ambiguity and chaos and turmoil inside. Then they meet somebody on the journey of the road, and then that person asks them a clarity catalyst question that uncovers an entire new world for them. So they become a seeker. They're inspired. They're like, oh, like I'm fascinated by how the brain works and how behavior works. So I'm going to understand neuroscience and psychology, or I'm interested about nutrition. And then the seeker is constantly consuming information, attending networking events, and just looking for that knowledge. They're obsessed with understanding how it works. And then that seeker then meets another person on the journey, and that person's like, have you created a system that you can
Mhm.
follow? And then they become that architect. And the architect is like, okay, I've consumed and gathered enough data. Now, with this data, what is the story that I want to create and co create with my creator? And they start designing their ecosystems, their friendships group. They start redesigning their relationship if they've been married or together with platonic and romantic relationship, so that the life that they're living is a life that they've created versus a life they've been given to by default. And then once that person is practicing designing their lives long enough, they move into the last archetype, which is the flow master. And the flow master is so grounded and rooted. So it's grounded in the values and the identity and the systems that it's built. And now it's starting to produce fruit and seeds, and give inspiration and mentor and water and inspire others to start taking a journey. So the four archetypes just shows you where you're at in the journey. And
Mhm.
then the quiz also breaks down even deeper. The PDF that comes with it, or should come with it, breaks down even deeper, like what type of career roles that you might be in, what's your relationship dynamic, what are your strengths and weaknesses.
Mhm.
And we all go through the cycles at different points of our lives because we're all gonna go in transitions. So
Mhm.
just to show you where you're at, we're never fixed. Sometimes we can be two clarity types in one day, an architect and a seeker, or a wanderer because we're doing something new in our business, or a flow master in our relationship. So like we move interchangeably between all of them, but it's
Mhm.
just showing where we're at and how to navigate.
Okay, so the question may seem weird because we keep talking about it, right? And it seems like it's self-understandable, if that's a thing. What is what is clarity and how important is it? Like I know it's a basic question and should be like very clear to people, but I don't know if it is.
It's not. I'm learning on this journey. Like a brother, because I'm an amateur boxer, he was like, "You have a book coming out. It's called Finding Clarity." I'm like, "Yeah." It's like, "What's that?" And I was like,
Yeah, see?
so I was like, "Okay, I gotta simplify this." So clarity is putting on new glasses of life, seeing clearer past what you thought you saw before.
Mhm.
So it is wisdom. It is making good, effective decision instead of asking what is the best or what is the good or wrong way to do things, asking what is the best thing to do given everything I've understood. So
Mhm.
it's taking your next right step, and it's just seeing things more clearly and understanding things more holistically so you can move effectively is how I would define it.
And in that in that world of clarity, people you could really start discovering your purpose, right?
Yeah.
Um, some people are unsure about what that is. Still, how does that find that clarity help somebody find their purpose when they're just so unsure? Even though they're like, yeah, I want to be a a X, whatever it is, but that's clear to them, but they don't know necessarily how to live that or navigate that purpose.
Yeah, I think we've been conditioned and we've been marketed to such phenomenally well, and I've been in that system of we have to know our purpose, and then we compare ourselves to people who know their purpose, and people like, well, they know their purpose. How come I don't know my purpose? They know their purpose because they start taking steps and they started getting feedback. So clarity is okay, what is my next right step? And as I take my next right step, it creates a compound clarity, and compound clarity becomes a movement. And then we we start understanding who's in alignment and who's not in alignment. So I break it down in my upcoming book, the C5 model, which is capacity. Do I have the ability to hold what's in this season for me? Am I growing? Is my ability to navigate things increasing? And then number two on the C5 is competency. Am I developing the skill set to understand what I'm aspiring to or what I'm currently doing? Am I becoming a master in what I'm doing? And then the third C is courage. Am I taking those steps to move forward despite feeling fear?
Mm-hmm.
And then number four on the C5 is connection. Who am I connected to and what am I connected to in the season? So my grandfather would always say, tell me who your friends are and I'll tell you where your future goes. And then
Mm-hmm.
he would go off and say, the first place you go blind is in the eye. And I was like, where else would you do that? But it's connecting to the right people and the right things. And then the last C of the C5 model is curiosity. Am I exploring what's around me? What am I doing? And I think if we start implementing those C5s, then it starts giving us better feedback to align what we're good at, how do we want to serve the world, and how can we make money doing it.
Yeah, I like all that. Now you talk about the messy middle. I know you just explained a bit of your five C's. Does that help somebody that's in the messy middle, that's finding clarity, have a purpose, and then I guess somewhere in the between there that just get all confused, don't know what's going on, trying to navigate their life and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, if when we're in a messy middle, we're in a learning phase. So we're definitely building our capacity. And think about anything we've learned. The learning phase suck.
Yeah,
But
it does. I'm in it right now for something I'm doing.
oh, I'm so excited for you because when you come on the other end, you're going to be able to teach that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
the learning phase sucks. So the messy middle is the learning. And one of the phrases I learned in college, my freshman year of college, uh, in football camp, one of the seniors said, "Marry the process, and the outcome's inevitable." And at the age of 17, I was like, "What the heck does this mean?" But
yeah.
as I became older and more mature, I was like, "We are so hyper focused, myself included, especially as high achievers, on the outcome. I have this vision. I want to see this vision done last year. But the development is in the process. Like, how am I making progress in the process? Oh, I got 1% better today, or I got 2% better." And the compound effect, one of my favorite books, Compound Effect, is it it exponentially catapults us to where we're going. And then once we start meeting people, so it's marrying the process. So when someone's in the middle, the easier thing is like exercising. And I'm an amateur boxer, and one of the things that suck is like during sparring sessions, like I want to give up. Like my lungs are heavy, and like I'm still getting hit, and I have to defend. But it's it's saying, okay, like this is uncomfortable, but I know if I endure this long enough, I just got to finish. I just got
Hmm.
to. So individuals in the middle, in the messy middle, just finish. Just keep on walking, one foot in front of the other. And I promise you, on the other side, it's going to be so effective. And you're going to look back and say, man, I'm glad I did it. And I don't have any regret. And then you're going to reach out and teach someone else, because while we go through it is our chance to learn, so we can minimize people's experiences so they can exponentially get to where they're trying to get to. So
One of the powerful things you said in that was just finish. So many people, and I'll right here too. You start something, and you just know it's for you. You get that messy middle, and you won't complete it, and then now you start back at the beginning again.
yeah.
I mean, that's such a cycle. Again, I had to call myself out, man. I had to call myself out time and time again. I'm like, dude, I don't look. Okay, this is past your, like you said, capacity. This is past your capacity, but you can grow your capacity. This is me talking to myself. You can grow your capacity because now you're on this road and you ain't getting off. So keep
Mm,
going. I had to tell myself that. But a lot of people, and I know a few, not not me anymore. I'm just claiming that. I'm declaring that I'm not that person,
Great
right?
stuff.
That I is not me. They'll get on that road and get in that messy space and then just give up. Like, get some clarity on these people that's listening and watching. That's them. That get in that messy space and be like, oh, I can't do this. And then they
Yeah.
go back to the beginning again.
Nah. We've been taught that discomfort is actually a sign that it shouldn't be. But like as we
Mm.
look at just nature and anything, like a seed literally has to break through soil. A caterpillar has to struggle through its cocoon in order to have the strength to fly. A freaking eagle kicks their baby eagles out the nest and they say, fly. So, and if you don't hit that ground, you learn how to fly.
Right.
So, um, so when we see any type of resistance, we're like,
That's the word.
we slow down. But if any one of us has ever exercised in the gym before, the failure is how we build muscle. So like people, we go to the gym just to fail. Like, all right, we failed today. Great job. Woo! We celebrate that. What if we take that and, oh, we failed today? That means we're getting better. Our muscle, our capacity is increasing. Our wisdom is increasing. Like, oh, that didn't work this time. And then it's like the middle is the where you build the muscle in the gains to support literally everything else. But it was just like, no, that's too much resistance. I don't want to be strong. It's like, and I had this conversation with one of my clients today. I was so upset with her. Um, she was like, I was alone today and I realized I don't like being lonely. And it made me emotional. I was like, isn't that what you prayed for? You prayed so that you're no longer dependent emotionally on other people and you got what you prayed for. She was like, I didn't even think of that. I was like,
Mm.
now you have nothing but time and space to love yourself. And she
Yeah.
was like, oh, I was like, exactly. So like when we pray for strength, God says, great, I'm gonna give you some weights. We pray for love, we get some people, you like the things that we're manifesting, like we're getting the opportunity to develop the skill set to maintain it. Because
Mhm.
I believe like anyone can get things, but very few people can maintain things. So in the messy middle is your ability and your opportunity to maintain, sustain, and ultimately elevate whatever you achieve. So stay.
Maintain, sustain, and elevate. You were talking, and I tried to find, trying to find it in my notes. You talked about some emotional something. It wasn't emotional intelligence. It was something else. What was it?
Emotional capacity, emotional regulation.
Maybe you talked about emotional capacity. It's somewhere in my notes here. I apologize. So,
That's
um, how does one build that? Because I would just say, I mean, is it just through trial and just situational things, or how does that show up for people? Because not everybody has a great level of emotional understanding, especially in the entrepreneurship world. Deals break off because people can't deal with each other or things of that space. And how does someone grow that for themselves?
That's a great question. And I remember hearing a story of a gentleman who was like the best at spotting counterfeit money. And they asked him, how did you do that? Or how are you able to like nanoseconds, spot a fake? He was like, because I studied what looks right.
Mm.
So you ask, how can someone build that capacity to have emotional discernment, to have emotional regulation, to increase their emotional intelligence, um, to navigate emotionally charged up situations? It's a great question. I would encourage everyone to study what works. And for me specifically, I studied the book of Proverbs, which is in the Bible, and that's the book of wisdom.
Mhm.
So it tells you like how to navigate life. And there's other authors who do a phenomenal job. I just believe the Bible is the best. But it's studying wisdom. And I'm a fan of Marcus Aurelius and great philosophers. So how to increase it, study the ones who have done it right, study the wisdom, and then take a next step because it's not just good to know, it's to apply. So learning ways to apply. And for me, I've learned this in therapy about tapping. So if I feel emotionally charged up in my relationship, or my girlfriend is saying something and I want to respond to her in love and understand where she's coming from without getting charged up, I start tapping, I breathe, and I'm like, I'm feeling a little triggered right now. So it's like, it's one thing to know wisdom, it's another thing to apply the wisdom of navigating emotionally charged up situation, regulating your emotions, and then understanding the emotions and the context in which someone's coming from. And it's not justifying their behavior, but it's choosing the healthier approach. So I would end with that.
That's a great like resolve for people, I think, and they but someone has to be willing to do that,
Yeah, yeah.
right?
Mother used to say you can't push a parked car. So like, yes.
Right. That's funny. But it's true. So it's very true. And I know you kind of touched on this earlier, but you're talking about your clarity framework, right?
Hmm.
And since we're talking about emotional awareness, how does that feature in your framework? Especially since we're talking about entrepreneurs, they're just kind of stuck in action. How does that play?
Yeah. So the emotional regulation and intelligence, it feeds into like the C5 model, which is the clarity framework. And that goes under competency. And like you said, somebody has to be willing. There's also courage. It's not like 1 through 5. It's the 5, and then you use it however it makes sense. So like you said, it takes courage to be like, you know what? I am not competent in this area. So, how do I develop my skill set so I can be a better husband, spouse, partner, business owner, leader, in a way that it moves people forward versus push people forward or away? So it's communicating and understanding businesses relationships. So how, if I get better at relationships, I ultimately get better at business. So when people like separates like communication, it's interchangeable, because even AI, you have to communicate to AI effectively. So if you have crappy prompts on ChatGPT, it's because the communication is crappy. So it's like, once we get better at relationships, growing our competency there, the business side become even easier. Marketing is saying, hey, I want a relationship with you. Sales is saying, hey, we're getting into a relationship with you. Operation is saying, hey, this is how our relational rhythms are going. HR is saying, let's do check-ins in our relationship. Business is relationships. So like, if we grow our competency there, emotional intelligence, how to navigate it with people and different personalities, I believe we'll thrive. Ha, thrive.
You're right. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. Very nice. I want to throw this last statistic at you real quick. It says nearly 45% of employees now expect purpose in their work, up from 29% just a year ago. I guess this is most recent. Um, do you think, or can you speak on how like clarity becomes a competitive advantage for people who are like, my work is my purpose, and that's they're aligned with their jobs?
Yeah. It's the advantage I see, the visual I want to create is, now there's this viral thing in Indonesia, the rowers and this kid is dancing. It's like the Olympic rower team, and then the kindergarten class at recess. If that painted a visual,
Yeah.
Olympic team and then kindergarten class at recess, one is chaotic, and that's a lot of organizations. They're like, a lot of people are doing things, a lot of hands are in their pot, in different pots, and it was like, we have a mission, we have values that we put on the walls, but we really don't know where we're going. And I've been a part of a lot of those organizations. It's like, we're so mission driven that we
Hmm.
forget why we do what we do. We know what we do, we know how we do what we do, but we don't know why we do it. And we don't stay in that space of how do we evolve, versus the business who has clarity, their leader has clarity. And like your statistic, that was beautiful. The leader first has to do that C5 model themselves. and then train and develop their subordinates and team to implement it as well. And if a business has clarity, it's like everyone is focused. It's like a Super Bowl team. Everyone knows the mission, they know what's going on, and they execute as one. But when teams and organizations and leaders and entrepreneurs don't have clarity, they're the playground full of kindergarten kids. It's crazy and chaotic. Playing dodgeball. And
Right.
playing dodgeball. It's just like,
Right.
let me just do the shoe and he was supposed to throw the ball. So it's just like, hold on, I'm supposed to use this tool, but I didn't use this tool effective. And that's understanding why we do what we do. So if our purpose, like Amazon, to be the best customer service company in the world on the planet, like they're constantly like, okay, even if this is going to take away from my business, like if you buy something from Amazon, you don't like it, you don't, I think some policy, you don't have to ship it back. They'll ship you a new one. And it's just like, they minimize the friction of like, oh man, I have to go to the post office and ship this, because they want to have the best customer service in the planet. That's their purpose. So the mission changes, the assignment changes, but the purpose become always remain the end goal. So we can change the vehicle, but the vision has to stay the same. And that's what gives us the ability to marry the process, and the outcome is inevitable.
I was just picturing actually this big old light that's ahead of me, above me. I had that experience with Amazon, and so that's what my mind went. Like it was so it's a I don't know, it cost some money, and they were like, well, because it was missing a piece, they just sent me out another one, and didn't really care about. I mean, they cared, but they sent me out the new one before I even had the chance to send them the old one. And I was thinking about that experience when you were talking about that. And if you said that the number one best customer service,
That's
like,
their purpose, is to be the number one customer service on the planet.
yeah. And so like that's their mission. That was a part of their mission or whatever. And I felt it like in my experience, and I want to put that on a person. Like, what's their mission, and how do you have somebody feel that mission that you're up to?
That's a really good one. You're moving from knowledge to embodiment. Like it's in our DNA, and that's a overused word, but it's how we do life. And if like my specific mission is and purpose is to help 1 billion people, support and guide 1 billion people to live a life by design. So when each interaction I have with someone, I'm constantly thinking, how do I make their world a little bit better? How do I challenge their paradigm so that they start creating a life from their perspective versus the perspective that they've inherited or been given? And if I can do that effectively in each interaction, like how you felt with Amazon, they sent you the package before you even sent it to them, like you feel it. So for us, we have to embody it, and embodying it is our values, and that's where it's just going to alignment. So if you're honest, if you're authentic, people gonna feel you. But
Mm-hmm.
if you're not, we can put on a show like my my girlfriend's brow girl asked her the other day. She was like, "Is Prosper always this happy all the time, like on his social media, or is that a front?" She was like, "No, that's him. Like he's goofy, but when he's not like that, that's when I know something's bad." And the biggest compliment I can get as a leader is that my significant other feels that I am authentic both on screen and off screen. Like that's who I am,
Mm-hmm.
versus I'm living a double life and I'm appearing to be some way, and at home I'm controlling and abusive. Like I can't come out into the world one way and I'm living a different way. So um, I believe when we start embodying that, then people gonna feel it, and then we just are who we say we are, versus
Yeah.
trying to project, and we attract the right tribe too.
I think the probably, I wouldn't say probably, I think that is the most powerful thing you can do for yourself or be for yourself is be authentically who you are. And people will get it or they won't. People will be attracted to that or they won't. And both ways are okay.
Yeah.
And in that space, I know we kind of talked about it, and throughout this conversation, you spoke it up, but I never actually asked you, what is the first step for someone who wants to find clarity? What is that first step?
It's a great question. This acronym, OQP, only quality people. Go find some quality people. That's the first step. And if you can't find quality people around you that model clarity, healthy confidence, find it in a book, find it in a podcast like this. And that's the first step, because in order to move from confusion to clarity, it takes exposure. And exposure leads us to education. And then the third step would be embodiment. So it's meditating, it's getting grounded. So we expose ourselves to new content, places that can open our minds a little bit more. And then we educate ourselves by what's this information. And then we start practicing embodiment of how can I get grounded. So even before finding quality people, I would say get grounded, get connected, move out of survival, because it's more of a physiological thing and a psychological thing. So get grounded. And then once you are in a grounded place and you're out of your amygdala survivor brain and you're in your prefrontal cortex, then find a quality person that you can just learn from, cultivate that relationship, and then explore.
So I had another question, but that you can get really scientific and quantum on what what you just shared, and I was trying to keep it like real, not trying to go to some levels where people can understand, identify, and use these tools for themselves. So maybe we'll have to come back another time and talk about the quantum physics of it all. One last question, you may not be able to surmise it really quickly, but breaking free from the past. We kind of talked about it, but breaking free from the past really can set somebody free, right? What does that first step look like, or a couple of steps?
Challenge your stories. So whatever stories are showing up, challenge it, and then explore your stories. I would say that's the first step.
I love that, because as we talked about it earlier, we sometimes live in our stories, and the stories that we live in aren't necessarily true.
Yeah.
It's kind of something that we made up in our minds, right? And we sometimes just continue to live in that and think that that's the way that life is. But then here comes the superstition of it, of it all. You have clients that you work with that you really help get that clarity, break free from the past. I think that's powerful for people when they actually get the world of freedom, clarity, understanding their purpose or purposes. What are all the type of clients that you work with?
That's a great question. I work with all walks of life. So I work with a 23-year-old who's trying to figure out what's their next step, and diagnosed with schizophrenia and multiple personalities and ADHD, getting them clarity, to a 67-year-old retiree is just like, okay, what's in my next season of life? So I work with all sorts of types of people in different seasons, individuals in transitions. So it's very robust, but the commonality between all these individuals I get to work with, from high influencing executive, making six figures, to a school principal that I coach, is these individuals is just like, I know what I've been doing isn't working. What do I need to do that does work, and how can I be a part of the creation of that? So those are the courageous people who are saying, I'm done living in this space. So those are the people I get to work with.
And you help them live their life by their design, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So before we leave, what's one thing on your mind, your heart, that you want to share as your last words on this podcast this time?
Every day, make progress. Every day, find clarity. And I believe if we can do those two things, we can get through the hard days, we can get through the great days, but we're just getting through the day when we're moving forward. And we get that aha moment is like when we first learn a new subject in class, like, ooh, that's awesome. So every day make progress, every day find clarity. And I believe if we can do that, we'll live a life by design.
I love that. How can people get in touch with you?
Yes. So my website, davidbprosper.com. I'm on all social media platforms, but the place I love playing in the most is Instagram at David B. Prosper. And I would love to connect with you. Should you hear this message and it resonate, hear your story, ask more questions. This site is a little different. I'm being interviewed, but I would love to connect with you on those platforms.
Nice. And, like every good podcast, they'll have their information connected. And I want to say thank you. But before we go, there's a last question that we asked for our watchers and our listeners, which is basically heard about David's journey here. And I want to know, what's one area of your life where you're ready to break free from the default mode and start living with more intention and living your life by design? One way what I would say, connect with David. As you like to be called Prosper, right?
Yes.
Yeah, nice. This has been a great conversation. The hour has gone by so quick. And I had so many more things I want to talk about, but I try to keep it succinct as much as possible.
Yes.
But you've brought such value to the podcast, and I really appreciate it. And I thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity. And you'll keep me posted on the release.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's actually all set. Yvonne, she's a master at dealing with all of that stuff, and we'll get all the information to you for sure.
All right. Thanks so much, Mike.
You got it. Thank you for being on the Thrivable journey, David. And as we always say, let's make thriving our new normal. And I'll talk to you next week.